up your engine! Today I'm going to talk about a relatively iconic vehicle. A lot of people lately have been buying them, prices have been going up. I'm going to talk about this particular one and give you some idea about what you should look for if you're going to buy one. Now this one is relatively rust-free. There are parts that have rusted, but you always want to check under the wells, and these are solid, and especially that frame's still solid. Now it does have surface rust, but it is solid as can be. Don't be fooled by superficial rust. This thing's solid as can be. There's nothing wrong with this frame. Then when we check in the back, as usual, there are some rust holes. But a lot is still pretty solid. This is a lot thinner steel. You can easily patch all that stuff out if you want. And a lot of guys are going to put a bed in it anyways after they fix it up. A lot of times the tailgates break, but this one still works perfectly fine. Goes up, goes down. The main reason people like these is the sound. Check out that rumbling V8 sound. It's got the 350 V8. It's got that beautiful sound. It's just that rumbling of a V8 engine. The harmonics is just perfect for engines. It's my favorite engine, these American V8s. They just have that sound. Now this particular one has the 350 V8. By today's standard, it's not insane horsepower. This particular one puts out 175 horsepower. Now the real collectors like the 454 V8 instead of the 350. The 454 cubic inches, because it puts out about 250 horsepower. But this thing as it stands is a gas hog enough with a 350. You put that 454 in, you're really going to get bad gas mileage when you push it. And this particular 350, it's got an Edelbrock. I like these Edelbrocks. When I work on them, when I get an old clunker that doesn't run, first thing I do is throw the carburetor off and put one of these Edelbrocks on. You can buy them today. You can get parts for them. They're very easy to set up. This one's in the middle of restoration. You can see this plastic part here is still in good shape. This one's been broken and this cheap thing was stuck on. He's going to get another one to put on there. Chevy V8. All the parts are readily available. Not that expensive. Power steering pumps, water pumps, you name it. Anything on this vehicle can be easily sourced out. Since it's the old style reciprocal ball steering, it's got a steering box that's easy to get to. It doesn't have the problems that a power steering rack will have if you have rack and pinion. As they age and leak and cost a fortune, these things can basically last forever. You can just tell back in the day, in 1970s, these things were solid made. Just listen to it close. That is a solid sound. Yeah, they're heavy cars. They eat a lot of gas. But even today, they got plenty of style. I don't know why they stopped making them. I always thought they were cool. It's like a car, station wagon, pickup truck, all rolled into one. And as you can see when we go inside, once it starts up, and it starts right up, it's got that V8 sound. And of course, this one's been modified with modern technology. It's got Bluetooth. He's got a great stereo system. You can't beat these little portable speakers. They put out great sound. And the seats have been done over halfway decently. It's not perfect, but hey, it kept with the tone of the car. You can always do a better job if you really want to. Plus everything still works. Look, the wipers still work. And of course, it's the power of these things that people drive them. They're fun to drive. And this thing still can go. And sure, you know, it corners like an old American car. It's kind of like driving a boat. You point landmarks in the front and point towards them and sail along, you know. They are kind of giant boaty type things, but hey, it's a certain style you get driving one of these things around. Once you learn how to drive them, they're kind of like lowriders, you know. And truthfully, as old as it is, it still doesn't ride all that bad. Now, as with any old car, well, the floorboards under here, they're pretty well rotten. Stuff's in there. You can cut them and re-weld stuff on. That's all fixable, you know. This particular one, it's not an OEM one anymore. There's no matching numbers, so you can do whatever you want with them. I paid like $2,300 for this one. It's a fun toy. Go all the way and fix the dash and get rid of the cracks, replace that. There's still parts readily available for these things. When you think about it, it's really the American two-door sports car. It's only got 2 seats, just like a sports car, but it's got plenty of room in the back to bring stuff. As you can see, it's got a big old bed, and can seriously tow things too. This baby can tow 5,000 pounds. He uses it to pick up vehicles with a little trailer so he can fix them up and sell them to people. Because when you think about it, they can be very affordable, fun vehicles. They look nice as long as the frame isn't rotten. Everything else on them can be easily repaired at extremely low prices. And it's got my favorite thing, lots of chrome. Not this cheap plastic crap that modern cars have. Imagine in 40-something years what these modern plastic cars are going to look like. Faded, crappy plastic. Chrome can always be re-chrome plated and it looks cool. It just pops. Unlike the monochrome modern cars where everything's painted the same color. Now they built these things for a long time, from 1959 to 1987. They're a pretty popular vehicle. And contrary to what a lot of people might think, it's not a truck frame. This is the station wagon frame that they put it on. So it pretty much was a car, truck, station wagon. It's based on a station wagon frame. And in those days, hey, we had one when I was a kid. We had a Chevy station wagon. That thing went all over the place. I was back in Niagara Falls, New York. In those days up there, it just rusted. One time we went to Montreal, and the exhaust system fell off when we went over a bridge. Had to get a new one welded on. But they would run, nevertheless. We could have driven it back. It would have just made a lot of noise. Never fantastic sellers numbers-wise, but they sold well over 500,000 of them over the years. They were never as popular as the pickup trucks. It kind of amazes me because this is kind of like the precursor to an SUV, only it has 2 seats instead of 4. Just realize in the United States, hey, people always want at least 4 seats. This only has 2, and 2-seater production is just not going to sell that many cars. For example, the only real roadsters that ever sold millions is the Mazda Miata. People want more than 2 seats most of the time. But for what it is, it's a fascinating vehicle. A 2-door pickup truck station wagon car. You don't find stuff like that anymore. And as I said, you go with the 350 V8, you can pick them up pretty cheap. You get the 454, everybody's collecting them, you're gonna go pay through the nose. It's a fun thing to drive with the 350 V8. You don't have to go gigantic to have fun. And if you're not a speed demon, you can get the V6. They're extremely non-collectible and you can pick them up dirt cheap. And if later you want it's the same truck, you can put in a V8. Let's face it, for $2,300 you can have a lot of fun with this thing. So if you're thinking about an El Camino, as long as the frame's solid and you don't mind fiddling around a little yourself, you can have fun pretty cheap. Cheap parts, easy to work on. Fun vehicle for a tiny amount of money. Because let's face it, what would you rather drive? This cool looking El Camino for $2,300 or $14,000 for this little bitty Chevy Spark? And here's some bonus questions and answers. David Yankee said, I'm looking to buy a 2013 Camry. For the first couple of years, it had all dealer oil changes, but then there's no records of oil changes. Should I buy this vehicle? Well, you know, I wouldn't just on that. They're great cars, and it might be a good car, but it's got all these records of oil changes, and then all of a sudden there aren't any. You have no idea. Now, if you don't change the oil in your car, it's insidious. It wears things slowly, but you're not even going to notice it half the time. I had a customer, another Toyota. He had one of those little Toyota vans, the ones that had the engine in the middle. He didn't change the oil for 90,000 miles. He bought it new and kept driving it. Well, turns out he was the sales rep for a big shoe company for the southwestern United States, and he put on 110,000 miles in about less than 2 years. So he drove a lot. And I said, well, didn't it burn oil? He said, you know, that's kind of funny. He said, the first 70,000 miles, it didn't burn any oil. Now I got to put a quart in every week. Well, I told him, I said, hey, you know, you've damaged this car. He was getting rid of it anyway, so he didn't care. And it said it had 15,000 miles. So it looked like it had 17,000 miles. And I was only 2 years old, so somebody could believe it, right? Well, the guy was evil, and he sold it to a guy for $10,000 cash. Then the guy figured out that it had a lot more miles than it said, but he bought it from the guy, and it was too late. He paid cash on a deal, so there's nothing the guy could really do. But it did go 110,000 miles and was still running. You never want to try that, but if this guy had gone, let's say, 40, 50,000 miles and didn't change the oil at all or not much, it will wear the engine. And I, just to be on the safe side, I'd walk from that deal. If they don't have the records, they had records for a bunch and then none, I'd walk from it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.